Namaskar, Nileshok, with another session of Dr. No Shorts. This would be part 18. In the previous part, we had looked at moon and moon's son, Soma and Somaputra, or Shashi and Shashi Jaina, and that's referring to moon and Mercury. I don't know again if this is just a coincidence, very similar to Shashi and Shashi Jaina, that is moon and Mercury, or Soma and Somaputra. In Indian astronomy, Mars is also known as Dhara Putra. Okay, so Dhara, that's our Earth, and Mars, Dhara Putra. I just thought this is interesting enough, so I wanted to share and make people aware of it. Now, a number of you may simply know that Mars is called Dharaputra, or Mercury is called Somaputra, or Saturn is called Raviputra or Suryaputra. But why are they called like that? I mean, is it just some kind of esoteric relationship that was created, just for fun, just for creating some interest? Or at a fundamental level, are there some close connections between, say, Saturn and the Sun, Mars and Earth, and Mercury and Moon? So we looked at some of the similarities, not to say there are no differences. There are indeed many differences. Who rotates around who? For example, when I discussed Mercury and Moon, I don't think I discussed one additional aspect. Now that we know with additional research that's not exactly on the money, but I wonder if European astronomers, specifically, it was Italian astronomer, the name is not coming to me right now, in 19th century, okay, so about 150 years or so. He tried to, I think he assumed, okay, and he looked at some data and came to the conclusion that the rate at which Mercury rotates around itself is same as the rate at which it circles the sun, which is 88 days. And therefore, as if, I mean, if that's the case, then we will see always the same side of Mercury. In recent times, again, I don't know exactly when, maybe last 50 years, 100 years, or maybe before that. I think in the last 100 years, maybe 50 years, they did the testing of this claim, whether the rotational period of Mercury matches with its rotational period, I'm saying around its own axis, okay, matches with the rotational period of Mercury around the sun, which was the assumption and that was made by a European, Italian astronomer in 19th century. Please pay attention. I'll tell you the connection of it. What is interesting is that that's the actual scenario, verified scenario with the moon. And that was known to ancient Indian astronomers, by the way, which is to say that the rate at which moon rotates around itself is similar, the rotational period around itself is similar to its rotational period around the Earth. So just for simplicity, let's say at 30 days, right? 29.53, 30 days. And therefore, we always see the same side of the moon, okay? Precisely, that is the reason, which essentially means what? at any given location, or another way to put it is the day on the moon is what? Equal to like 30 days, So if we have a 24-hour day, the day on the moon is like a 30-day, 15 days of sun and 15 days of day and 15 days of night. Now, something very interesting. If you notice, when the uh, duration of the days of Pitrus, who are assumed in an Indian, you can say, I don't know what's the right word. It's not astronomical. It's not emotional. It's traditional thinking, you can say. Traditional thinking is a good word, that the Pitraloka or the Chandraloka, which is considered also matched with the Pitraloka, their day is of a 15 days and their night is of a 15 days. Our day is a day and night, or you can say together, is 12 hours and 12 hours. And then then the gods or devatas were assumed to stay in the north or at the North Pole, so to say, and therefore they have a day of 6 months and a night of 6 months, like equal to 1 year, one human year, like in a Bharata Varsha. The reason I mentioned that, now look at moon. We know about the moon, and that is connected with the day of a Pitrus. Now, what is interesting is this Italian astronomer, when he made the assumption that the rotational period of Mercury is same, rotational period of Mercury around itself is same as the rotational period of Mercury around the sun, was he aware of the Indian astronomy, where the connection of moon is made with the Mercury, that Soma and Somaputra, or Shashi and Shashi Jena, moon and moon's son, but also the fact that Indians knew that moon's rotation around itself matches with its rotation around the earth, and therefore we tend to see the same side of the moon. And he essentially take that idea and superimposed on Mercury because of that moon and moon's sun connection. Because remember, until Western Europe had telescopes, they could not observe Mercury with great precision and accuracy. That was not so much of a problem with the moon, okay? With some different techniques, they could do it. So anyways, by the way, that was found to be not correct. That's the current modern science wisdom. In fact, instead of 88 days as the rotational period of Mercury around itself, now I think they estimate that to be around 60 days or something like this. Okay, so that was actually an additional directional similarity between moon and Mercury, okay, that I didn't mention. Of course, now it's not identical, with additional knowledge that has been found and that has been tested, but I thought I'll mention it. In similar fashion, I want to quickly discuss Dhara and Dhara Putra, that is Mercury. What are the similarities between the Mars and the Earth? Now remember, when we are talking of similarities, these are the similarities in comparison to other planets of the solar system. So these two things, or whatever things I mentioned here, are similar about Mars and Earth, but that's not true with other planets of the solar system, okay? So both Earth and Mars are believed to have condensed out of a massive cloud of hot gases around the sun about 4.6 million years ago. That's like how long we have sun, so to say, according to the European Space Agency. Okay, so this is kind of, as good as it has been tested and validated. Anyways, since that time, both planets slowly cooled and formed into a spherical shapes that we see today. Both planets, now this is a similarity, Dhara and Dharaputra. Both planets have dense cores. These are the dense metallic cores. And then they have a hard exterior crust, like silicate crust, okay? So the composition changes definitely between how the crust is made on Mars versus the Earth, but directionally similar. The central metallic hard core, core, and then the hard exterior crust, basically with silicates. In addition, water has also played a role in the history of the both. Now, right now, Mars is pretty much dry. Yes, there are some ice caps and so on, but at one point, there is evidence of rivers on Mars, like, definitely streams, we don't know how far. And so sufficient, there was water and other conditions to create some kind of life on Mars. Okay, so that's the evidence we do have. But that's not the case today on Mars. What are some of the other similarities? Again, I'm bringing them from a Dhara and Dharaputra. Okay, well, one is both have valleys and mountains. Okay, so Mars versus Earth. Mars is on the left, Earth is on the right. Both have volcanoes and ice caps. Okay, both have weathers and season, and that partly, just keep that in mind, that partly has to do with their inclination. So Earth has that right now, currently the inclination of 23.5, and Mars pretty much has similar inclination, about 25 degrees or so, very similar, closer to Earth. Surprising. Okay, so they have, therefore, because of that, they have weathers and seasons in both places. Of course, we know on the Earth. Another interesting things, I don't know if you knew it, the day on the Mars is about 24 hours and 40 minutes or something like this, slightly longer than that on the Earth, but very comparable. Okay, about 24 hours in both places. So think of it, volcanoes and ice caps, weather and season. Now, there is no much water there. So, but I'm going to say Mars did have water, okay, at least once upon a time. And in India, I'm saying the Earth does have water, and we need to take good care to keep it, to the best of our abilities here. The orbital tilt I already mentioned in the context of weather and seasons. The orbit of Mars does have orbital tilt, and it's very similar to the Earth, about 25 degrees, and Earth is right now 23.5, and which does change through 22.5 to 24.5 cycle, and that cycle is about cycle has a orbital period of about 41,000 years. Okay, is this a coincidence, or ancient Indian astronomers knew these things, and that formed the basis in the way they named Mars as the son of the Earth? And in a similar fashion, they named Mercury as son of the moon. All right. So this is how relative sizes would look like for Earth and Mars. And from the Mahabharata text, more than 7,500 years ago. So how old is this comparison? Okay, this connection between Dhara and Dharaputra, just like Soma and Somaputra. We don't know how old is that connection. What we do know is that definitely it is older than 7,500 years ago, because we see this in the text of Mahabharata. Okay, and of course, decisively it is established that Mahabharata happened 7,583 years ago. No ifs, no buts. So in that particular text, when the reference comes on the last and 18th day of the war, okay, 2nd November 5561 BCE, Nakshatra Pushya, the first day of Kali Yuga, okay, for the entire Mahabharata tradition, entire Purana tradition. So Dharaputra, okay, so their Dharaputra underlying thing refers to the son of the Earth, which is Mars. Something very interesting I thought I'll share with you. That's all I have here. Now, please don't ask me. Now make a video on Bhrigu Suno, like, and who is Bhrigu and why Venus is called son of Bhrigu. I don't know. If you are curious, go do the research and share with everyone. Please also do not ask about any other planetary comparisons like that, because if I had the information, I would do it, just like I did for Mercury and Moon and Mars and the Earth. Also, there is already the connection that I mentioned, like that Saturn is known as Surya Putra or Ravi Putra, which means the same thing, and also Yama Agrajam, like a brother of Yama. Why Saturn is called like that with that nomenclature, I do not know. If you know, you don't need to tell me. You can write a blog about it, you can create a video about it, and you may share the link if you feel like. Okay. All right, that's all I have. I'll see you in another session of either Dr. No Shorts or Shraddha and Pradnya, or the Marathi series Upasana and Abhyas. Namaskar.